The day of the baby shower was bright and full of laughter. Friends and family gathered around the young mother, bringing gifts wrapped in shiny paper and tied with ribbons. But the most special gift came from her sister and parents. They rolled in a large box, covered with golden wrapping. Everyone gasped when they opened it. Inside was a luxury crib. It was not an ordinary crib. The wood was polished to perfection, carved with beautiful designs, and decorated with tiny golden patterns that shimmered in the light. It looked like something from a royal palace. "This is perfect for you," her sister said with a wide smile. Her mother laughed and added, "It's expensive, so be grateful." Everyone clapped and admired the crib, calling it the most beautiful gift of the day. The young mother smiled politely, but inside her heart felt heavy. She looked at the crib longer than anyone else. Something about it made her uneasy. She touched the wood, and it felt strangely cold, even in the warm room. She quickly pulled her hand back, forcing a smile so no one would notice that as the days passed, the crib was placed in the nursery. It looked grand and elegant, standing in the corner, waiting for the baby. Everyone expected her to use it, but she never did. She always kept her baby close, letting him sleep beside her or in a simple basket. The luxury crib stayed empty. One evening, her husband entered the nursery. He noticed the untouched crib and frowned. "Why don't you use it?" he asked softly. She looked at him with calm eyes. "I just don't want to," she answered, "but it's the best gift your family gave. It's safe, it's strong, and it's beautiful." "Why not?" he pressed, her lips curved into a small smile. She said nothing for a moment, then whispered, "Try putting the baby in." Her husband blinked in surprise. "What do you mean?" "Just try it," she said again, her voice strangely calm. Confused, he picked up the baby and walked towards the crib. The room felt colder as he stepped closer. The golden carving seemed to shine a little brighter under the dim light. He slowly lowered the baby inside. At first, nothing happened. The baby lay quietly, staring up at the ceiling. But then, the air in the room shifted. A faint sound came from the crib, like a low whisper, almost too soft to hear. The husband froze. The baby's eyes widened, not in fear, but in fascination. His tiny hands reached up as if he was trying to touch something invisible above him. The golden carvings on the crib seemed to move, bending slightly, as if alive. The husband's face turned pale. His heart raced, and without thinking, he grabbed the baby back into his arms. The whisper stopped. The carvings returned to normal. He looked at his wife with fear in his eyes. She was still smiling, calm and steady, as if she already knew what he had just seen. The husband's voice trembled. "What is this?" The young mother whispered, "Now you understand why I never used it." The luxury crib stood silent in the corner again. But now, the husband could no longer see it as just a gift. It was something else. Something waiting. That night, after the strange moment with the crib, the husband could not sleep. He kept hearing the soft whisper in his mind. He replayed the scene again and again, the carvings that seemed to move, the glow in the baby's eyes, the cold air in the room. He turned to his wife, who was sleeping peacefully beside the baby. She looked calm, almost too calm, as if nothing unusual had happened. The husband whispered to himself, "Maybe I imagined it, maybe I was just tired." But deep down, he knew the truth. What he saw was real. The next morning, he walked into the nursery alone. Sunlight filled the room, painting the crib in warm golden colors. It looked harmless, beautiful even, like a perfect gift. He stepped closer and touched the wood. For a second, it felt normal. But when his hand brushed against the carvings, a sudden chill ran through his body. He pulled his hand back quickly, his heart beating faster. "No! I didn't imagine it," he whispered. Later that day, he confronted his wife again. "There is something wrong with that crib," he said firmly. She only looked at him with the same calm smile. "I told you," she replied softly, "but why didn't you warn me? Why didn't you tell me before I put the baby in?" His voice was shaking with anger and fear, her eyes darkened. because you would never believe me. You had to see it for yourself." The husband stared at her, feeling a wave of unease. It was as if she had been expecting this moment all along. That evening, when the baby fell asleep, the husband decided to test the crib again. He carried a small toy and gently placed it inside. For a moment, the toy lay still. Then, the carvings around the crib began to shift again, not much, just enough to notice. The toy trembled slightly, as if an invisible hand was moving it. The husband's breath caught in his throat. He grabbed the toy quickly, his palms sweating. The carvings froze. The crib went silent again, his fear grew stronger. He now knew it wasn't just a trick of his mind. The crib was alive. That night, he told his wife, "We need to get rid of it. Throw it away. Burn it if we have to." She shook her head slowly. "It's not that simple. The crib, it chose us." "What are you talking about?" he demanded, his voice rising. "The baby is connected to it," she whispered. "Didn't you see the way he smiled? Didn't you notice how calm he was inside? The crib isn't here to harm him. It's here because of him." Her words made his blood run cold. Connected? Chosen? None of this made sense. The husband stood in silence, staring at the golden crib glowing softly in the dark corner of the nursery. His fear deepened, not just of the crib, but of the unsettling calmness in his wife's voice. For the first time, he wondered who really knew the truth, him or her, and why did she seem less afraid than he was? The husband could not rest. Every time he looked at the crib, his chest tightened with fear. The golden carvings seemed to shimmer even in the dark, as if they were watching him. He needed answers. One afternoon, while his wife was busy in the kitchen, he went searching through the old packaging and receipts his sister had left behind after the baby shower. Among the torn wrapping paper, he found a small folded paper at the bottom of the box. It was a card. The handwriting was faded, but the words were clear: "Do not let the child sleep here. This crib is not for children." His hands trembled as he read it. Who would send such a warning with a gift? And why would his sister ignore it? That night, while his wife was asleep, he asked her sister to come over. When she arrived, he wasted no time. He held out the card. "Where did you get this crib?" he demanded. The sister's smile faded. Her eyes darted away, as if she had been waiting for this question. She finally sighed and whispered, "I bought it from a small antique shop. It was hidden at the very back, covered with a cloth. The shopkeeper told me it was rare, very rare. He said it had traveled across countries, passed through many hands. When I asked why, he only said one thing: it doesn't belong here." The husband felt a shiver run down his spine. Then why buy it? The sister hesitated. "Because it was calling to me. I know it sounds crazy, but when I saw it, I felt like it wanted me to take it. And it was beautiful. I thought it would be perfect for the baby." Her words made the husband's blood run cold. Calling to her? Wanting her to take it? He looked at the crib again. The carving seemed almost alive, twisting under the shadows of the lamp. The sister continued, her voice softer now. "The shopkeeper begged me not to buy it. He said once it enters a house, it never leaves. He even offered me some tea. Else for free. But I laughed and ignored him. I thought he was just trying to scare me." The husband clenched his fists. "You should have listened." But the sister wasn't finished. She leaned closer and whispered, "There's one more thing. He told me that the crib doesn't belong to humans. He said it was made for something else, something not from this world." The room grew silent. The husband felt his chest tighten. The words echoed in his head, "Not from this world." That he turned to look at the crib once more. The golden patterns now looked less like flowers or vines, and more like symbols, strange alien marks that spiraled across the wood. And then, for just a second, he swore he saw one of the carvings shift into an eye, staring back at him. The husband stepped back, his breath quick and shallow. The sister gasped, covering her mouth with her hand. Neither of them spoke. But both knew one thing now: the crib was never meant to be a gift. It was a message, and whatever had built it wanted the baby. The husband tried to forget what he had learned, but the words of his sister and the warning card haunted him. The idea that the crib was not for humans played in his mind like a curse. He wanted to throw it out, burn it, destroy it. But every time he tried, his wife stopped him. "Don't," she whispered. "You'll make it angry." That sentence alone was enough to keep him awake at night. One morning, the baby was lying on the floor, giggling softly. The husband was watching him with tired eyes when suddenly, the baby turned his head toward the crib. His little face lit up with pure joy. The husband's heart sank. The baby crawled closer, reaching his tiny hand toward the golden carvings. The moment his skin touched the wood, the crib responded. The carvings glowed faintly, as if welcoming him. The baby laughed, not the usual innocent laugh of a child, but a strange, almost knowing sound. His small fingers traced the carvings like he understood the symbols. The husband rushed forward, pulling the baby away. "No!" he shouted. The glow vanished instantly. The baby began to cry, not because he was scared, but because he wanted to go back. His tiny hands reached toward the crib again, desperate, as if something was calling him. The wife walked into the room and saw what was happening. Instead of fear, her face showed something else: calm acceptance. She picked up the baby and gently whispered, "See? He feels safe with it." The husband's voice trembled with anger. "Safe? That thing is alive. It's trying to take him." But the wife shook her head slowly. "You don't understand. It doesn't want to harm him. It belongs to him." Her words chilled him to the bone. He looked at her in disbelief. "Listen to yourself. You sound insane." But deep down, he couldn't deny what he had just seen. The crib had reacted to the baby. It hadn't moved for anyone else. Not for him. Not for the sister. Not even for the wife. Only for the baby. That night, he woke to a soft humming sound. He sat up quickly and realized it was coming from the nursery. Heart pounding, he crept toward the door and pushed it open. The baby was awake, standing in the crib. He wasn't crying, wasn't scared. Instead, he was smiling. The carvings around him glowed like fireflies, casting strange shadows across the walls. The symbols pulsed with light, in rhythm with the baby's tiny heartbeat. The husband froze, watching in horror. The baby lifted his hand slowly, and the glow became stronger, as if responding to his command. It was not the crib controlling the baby. It was the baby controlling the crib. The husband stumbled back, his chest tight with fear. He whispered, "What are you?" The baby turned his head and looked at him. For the first time, the husband felt that his child's eyes were not completely human. There was something ancient, something unexplainable, shining in them, and then the baby giggled, sweet, innocent, but filled with something far too powerful for a child. The husband knew one terrifying truth: the crib was not binding the baby, the crib was answering to him. The sister could not stay away. The husband's words, the warning note, and the strange glow in the baby's eyes haunted her just as much. Weeks passed, and her guilt grew heavier. She had been the one who brought the crib into the house. One rainy evening, she arrived unannounced. The storm rattled the windows, and the nursery glowed faintly in the distance. She entered the house with a nervous smile. "I just came to see the baby," she said. The wife welcomed her, but the husband's face hardened. He did not trust her anymore. Still, he let her inside. The baby cooed happily when he saw his aunt, stretching his arms toward her. She picked him up, kissing his forehead, but her eyes wandered to the crib in the corner. It stood there silently, gleaming in the dim light, the carvings twisting in the shadows. She shivered. "Why don't you use it?" she asked again, her voice too casual. The wife's eyes darkened. "Because you already know why." But the sister wasn't satisfied. That night, when everyone else was asleep, she crept back into the nursery. The storm outside had grown louder, thunder shaking the walls. The baby lay in his mother's arms in the next room, fast asleep. The sister stared at the crib, her heart racing. She whispered to herself, "It's just wood. Just a piece of furniture. Nothing more." She stepped closer, her hand trembling as she touched the carvings. Cold. Too cold, then she made a reckless choice. She picked up the baby from his mother's side, ignoring the faint stir of movement in the carvings as she carried him into the nursery. "If you are harmless," she muttered, "then prove it." She placed the baby inside. For a moment, silence, then the golden carvings began to shift, twisting like living vines. The baby laughed, his tiny hands reaching for the glowing patterns. A hum filled the air, low and vibrating, like a song in a language no hum and could understand. The sister's eyes widened in terror. She tried to lift the baby out, but the crib resisted. The carvings rose like tiny hooks, holding the baby gently but firmly in place. "No!" she screamed, pulling harder. The baby only laughed, glowing faintly under the strange light, and then, from the carvings, a shadowy hand emerged. Long, thin, and dark as smoke, it reached upward, brushing against the baby's cheek. The baby giggled, as if greeting an old friend. The sister's scream echoed through the house. The husband burst into the nursery, grabbing the baby out just as the shadow hand stretched toward him. The carvings froze instantly, the glow vanishing. The baby cried, upset at being taken away. The sister collapsed to the floor, shaking, her face pale. It touched him," she whispered. The husband glared at her with fury. "I told you never to bring it here. And now you see what you've done." The wife stood in the doorway, calm and silent, her eyes unreadable. The storm outside finally broke, rain hammering against the windows. The sister knew she could never erase what she had just witnessed. The crib wasn't only alive, but it wanted the baby, and it was patient. The night after the sister's scream, the house was silent but heavy with fear. The baby slept calmly in his mother's arms, while the husband sat in the corner, staring at the crib with wide, restless eyes. The sister had left in tears, her face pale and her hands still shaking. The husband finally broke the silence. "We have to get rid of it. Tonight. Before something worse happens." But the wife didn't move. Her calmness was almost frightening. She stroked the baby's hair and whispered, "You still don't understand." The husband's voice rose in anger. "Understand what? That this thing is alive? That it wants our child?" She lifted her head and looked at him, her eyes colder than he had ever seen. "It doesn't want him. It came for him." The husband's stomach dropped. "What are you talking about?" She stood slowly and walked into the nursery, placing the baby gently back into the small basket beside her. The golden crib gleamed faintly in the dark corner. She stood before it, her hand hovering just above the carvings. "When I first touched it," she whispered, "I felt it. The energy, the call. It wasn't asking me to use it. It was asking me to wait. Because this crib was never meant for me. It was always meant for him." She turned and looked at the baby, her eyes filled with something between fear and love. The husband shook his head. "You sound insane. This is our child, not some chosen one for a piece of wood." Her voice hardened. "Look at what you've seen. The carvings glow for him, not for us. The shadows touched him, not us. He isn't afraid. He's happy. Don't you see? The crib recognizes him." The husband backed away, his chest tight. "Recognizes him? What does that even mean?" The wife's eyes softened, almost sad. "It means he is not completely ours. Not completely human." Those words cut deeper than any knife. The husband stared at her, his face pale. "Don't you dare say that. He is my son." "Yes," she said gently, "but he is also theirs." The room grew colder. The crib began to hum again, low and steady, as if agreeing with her. The golden carvings shimmered faintly, casting alien patterns across the walls. The husband's voice cracked. You knew! You knew from the beginning! She nodded slowly. When I was pregnant, I dreamed of it. A golden cradle floating in the dark, voices calling my child's name before he was even born. And then, as if the dream had walked into reality, the crib appeared at my baby shower. You think that was an accident? No! It was meant to find us. The husband's breath came fast and shallow. He felt like the walls were closing in on him. You let this happen. You let it into our home. Her calm smile returned. It was already here, long before we noticed. The husband wanted to scream, to deny everything. But the crib glowed brighter, the hum rising like a song, and deep inside he knew she wasn't lying. The baby stirred in his basket, opening his glowing eyes, and the crib whispered his name. The storm outside had finally passed, but inside the house, the air was heavier than ever. The husband stood frozen, his heart pounding, while the wife held the baby close to her chest. The crib glowed faintly in the corner, humming with a rhythm that felt alive, almost like breathing. The husband broke the silence. We're leaving. Tonight. We'll take him far away. His voice shook, but his eyes burned with determination. The wife shook her head slowly. You can't run from it. It will follow. It was never about the house. It was always about him. The baby stirred, his tiny hands reaching toward the golden crib. His eyes shone with a strange light, brighter than ever before. The carvings pulsed in answer, as though they were waiting for his command. Suddenly, the ground beneath the crib trembled. The golden patterns spread across the floor like cracks of light, forming a circle around it. A low vibration filled the air, rattling the windows. The husband grabbed his wife's arm. We have to stop this. Throw it out, burn it, anything. But she only whispered, it's too late. The door is opening. The carvings shifted violently, and the crib erupted with light. The wooden frame stretched, twisting into impossible shapes, until it was no longer a crib but a portal, a doorway glowing with alien fire. Strange shadows moved inside it, tall and inhuman, their forms flickering like smoke. The baby laughed. Not with fear, but with joy. He wriggled in his mother's arms, desperate to go closer. The husband's eyes filled with tears. Please, don't let him go. He's our son. The wife's hands trembled as she held the child tighter. Her calm mask was gone now, replaced by raw fear. I love him, she whispered, but love may not be enough to keep him here. The portal grew brighter, humming louder, until the whole nursery shook. Alien whispers filled the air, calling the baby's name in a language no human tongue could speak. The husband dropped to his knees, begging. Don't do this. He belongs with us. With me. The wife turned toward him, tears running down her cheeks. You don't understand. He doesn't belong to us. We were only chosen to keep him safe until they came. Before the husband could answer, the baby stretched out his tiny arms toward the glowing doorway. The light bent to him, wrapping around his body like threads of energy. No, the husband screamed, rushing forward. He grabbed the baby's hand, pulling with all his strength. For one terrible moment, he thought he had won, but the crib's light burned hotter, and something pulled back from the other side. The baby looked at his father with innocent eyes, then smiled. The mother whispered, her voice breaking, he's choosing. With a flash of light, the baby slipped from the husband's grip. The glowing thread swallowed him whole, drawing him into the portal. The cries of something not human echoed through the room as the portal began to close. The husband fell to the ground, his hands empty, his screams lost in the fading light. The wife stood silent, broken, her face pale as ash. The crib returned to its normal shape, golden, silent, and empty. But now it wasn't just a crib. It was a doorway waiting to open again, and somewhere, in a place beyond their world, their child was no longer theirs.